football first.
Yeah, let's do some college football. Game of the week in Knoxville, 3:30 CBS, prime time. We got the Vols. I think they're ranked 11th. In Florida,
Yep.
ranked 20th.
Yep.
Extremely lopsided series in the past 20 years. We all know
This
it.
is the highest the Vols have been ranked since they opened against App State in 2016. Was that
Yep.
year?
That's probably right.
Yeah. Then they dropped after they barely beat them. So, yeah, they never cracked.
That was
Well,
all over.
they cracked the top 10 after they beat Georgia
Yeah,
and they lost to Texas
And they
A&M.
got beat to Texas.
yeah.
They were probably like 8th or 9th then as well. And then got smashed by Alabama the next week.
That was a roller coaster of the year, and that was the year we
Finished
also beat
8-4.
Florida for the first time in like 12 years.
And
Yeah.
lost to South Carolina and Vanderbilt.
We did, yeah. And as you can see, we are homers. At least I am. I don't know if I can speak for Seafield, but he did attend the game in Pittsburgh.
I did go to Pittsburgh.
He doesn't want to be associated with those people.
He is.
But he did go.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah. Behind closed doors.
I'm closeted.
Yeah,
Tennessee.
he is a closet UT fan if I've ever met one. He doesn't want to be associated with half the stuff that you associate Tennessee fans with, but half the stuff he loves. So I don't know.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
know
rough
you follow. I know you follow every Vol influencer on Twitter, Cameron. It's okay.
Come on.
We know it.
I don't even have
All
Twitter.
right. So
That's
the Vols, according to ESPN, have a 87.4% matchup predictor.
The
against
FBI?
Florida.
That's a
Yes,
lot.
the FBI. 87.5%. How are we feeling?
After losing
That's
17 of the last 18, and you're at 87% predicted to win, that's scary. I can't believe that.
I think we're 10-point favorites.
Yeah, I saw
according to
9.5 last.
the sports book.
If it goes to 10, I'm just saying it. I'm gonna bet on
We're
Florida.
taking Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to 2016, right?
Right?
What, Tennessee was down like 21-3,
Yep.
and
Halftime.
like scored 28 unanswered. So they did end up, winning by double digits. But like, I don't foresee that something like that happening. Maybe it will. I hope.
So let's just preview the game
Mhm.
real quick. So the Vols are coming in pretty substantial favorites. Hendon Hooker is having again one of the most efficient seasons
Mhm.
in the league, and Florida's got some question marks, especially at the quarterback position. What do you guys think is going to be the playmaker? Given I think some injuries that Tennessee's going through, like who's the key to success for the Vols?
For
So
me,
Tillman,
may not play. I don't think he's going to play.
yeah, that's what I've
Yeah,
heard. That's gonna take a lot.
I think it's pretty much right now, like, doubtful for the game. So without Tillman, give me Hyatt out of the slot. I do think Florida's DBs are going to be better than advertised. They just always play well against Tennessee no matter what, even if they are bad. I don't think they're that bad. I think they're actually pretty good in the secondary, and they're worse up front on defense. But give me Hyatt as that playmaker guy that we're going to need for the whole game.
All right, guys. All right, I agree 100% with Hyatt, but we just got some inside intel from the depths of hell, which is Vol Nation, the forums, and 24/7. I've got a screenshot sent here from well-known member Matt's 42012. High ankle sprain for Tillman, out till LSU, maybe longer. You heard it here first.
That's insider info if I've ever
We
seen it.
are breaking the story.
Take on
Whoa.
me sports.
That's us.
Looks like Halfwood's frozen. Hopefully we can
Yeah.
get him back. But give me Hyatt, Cameron. Give me Hyatt all day long.
Small is going to play, from what I've heard.
I think he'll play, but I honestly think we'd be better off with the other two.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, Wright's been much better in my opinion. Even when Jabari Small was perfectly healthy, I felt that way for the last 2 years. And even Dylan Sampson should get quite a bit of work if the Vols are smart. I like a committee against Florida. I think in order for the Vols to do anything, they have to establish the run. So it's going to be really telling, I think, early on if Jalen Wright is getting stood up at the line or if he's getting 4 or 5 yards, because that frees up Hendon Hooker a lot to do more of what he does, find open guys and scramble and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be by committee, but my hope is that the second and third string guys end up getting more reps than the first team, at least for running back, because from what we've seen so far this year, Jalen Wright looks a lot better than Small, and Dylan Sampson looks like a playmaker.
Yeah, so Jalen Wright on the season, 45 carries, 231 yards. That's 5 yards a carry. I mean, that's pretty good. I think even for college, and he's got 3 touchdowns. I really like him, especially in space. I think he can make guys miss, and that's going to be a key. But our offensive line, they've been bad in the past. I don't think they're as bad this year, but they're definitely not a sure thing. So I would definitely be looking to establish the run early, trying to get those backs involved, and then like you said, Hyatt is really going to be the playmaker that we got to get the ball to. I really like him a lot.
Agreed. I think he's the guy, especially too. Callaway, I'm assuming, is out or suspended for at least part of the game.
He's suspended for the first half.
Okay.
And I wouldn't count on him playing like the rest of the year, just based on
Yeah.
what they did last year when he dropped a pass. Now that he, hit the 1-2 Chris Brown, I'm pretty sure he's going to be out for a while.
Yeah, that
we may see it. Awful. We may see a little bit more Ramel Keaton. I'm guessing we could also see some Walker Merrill. I've liked what I've seen from him. He really plays hard, and I think can get open as well. So I think it's got to be a big game for Brew McCoy too. He's got to use his size on whatever matchup he's got. And he looked, in my opinion, he looked good against Akron, at least when I was watching it. I know he didn't get kind of the looks later, especially after the PI calls on him, which both were questionable. I think he's just going to have to stay inside himself and run some good routes and use his size to win some matchups.
Yeah.
Biggest thing is going to be Hooker's deep ball because, like you mentioned, he has been very efficient still by the numbers this year, but he himself admitted he has not played well. Like, that Pittsburgh game was one of the most frustrating things I've watched in person. Just in practice, he was underthrowing everything. When it got game time, he was overthrowing everything. Like, just his deep ball has not been it for this entire year so far, really. So that's going to be a big key because this is clearly the best defense that he's faced so far.
Yeah. Deep ball is going to be key. One thing about Hooker, though, is he doesn't give the ball away very often.
That's true.
He's very protective of the football. And he'll make some ill-advised throws, but even when he does, he'll try to make them in spots where you can't really get hurt by it.
It's like in golf, knowing your miss. I definitely think Hooker knows when to overthrow and when to underthrow. And I think underthrowing can sometimes be really beneficial. If your guy's covered and you want him to come back to the ball, a lot of times that can draw a pass interference.
Yeah.
I think he's, for whatever reason, and maybe this is just because he came into the year with the starting job and a lot of expectations over his head, he's looked a little nervous. And
I think that's a big piece of it.
Especially early in the game. And so I think and I've heard a lot of people say this, the Vols have got to get ahead and stay ahead, and not leave anything up to chance or the officials or anything like that. We definitely have the talent to win this handily. If we do what we do against Pittsburgh and turn the ball over and have some poor offensive possessions and overthrow some open receivers, I think it could be a much closer game than I would be comfortable with.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, Florida doesn't have anything that necessarily scares me from an offensive standpoint. I mean, Tennessee's defense is not great by any means, but at the end of the day, I know Tennessee has a better offense, but like you said, it's those self-inflicted wounds that continuously happen. I mean, Pittsburgh had a one-legged third-string quarterback that took them to overtime just because the offense was doing nothing and
muff punt, fumble.
Yeah, continuous issues in that way. So that's what
that's actually the one grief I have with Jalen Wright, the running back, is he did fumble in the first two games. So
that's why I think they would rather have small.
Yeah. Small is definitely the safer option, but at some point you got to let the big dog eat.
Jalen Wright and Dylan Sampson are both more explosive, and so I hope that Jabari Small will be himself, and we can use those other two guys to mix some things up, maybe even catch some passes out of the backfield. I loved the option plays that we scored twice on with Sampson. That was so awesome. Like,
those are good red zone plays. Like when the field is limited, and
ran it on fourth down.
You can't just throw Hail Marys like we like to do. The option's got to be in the playbook.
I know with it being early in the season, they were still keeping some stuff in maybe, but that was my biggest gripe at Pittsburgh, was just like, you get some groove going, and then it's just like, all right, we're on the 30-yard line, let's throw it to the end zone. Like, what? I mean, that's how that offense works, though. It's that, you're either 3 and out in 20 seconds or, a 15-minute drive that is like crazy speed and everything. It's nuts. Nowhere in between.
Yeah,
I think our guys are going to be open on some of those too. And Hooker's going to throw them open. I think we're going to look for certain matchups to try and get Jalen Hyatt just streaking down the sideline, or Brew McCoy on a fade in the end zone. Like I'm perfectly okay with that. I just I hope that we can keep it within ourselves to have smart offensive possessions and not just put ourselves in a hole by, running the first two plays for 3 yards and then having to throw on a third medium long.
Yeah.
And, because a 3 and out really kills our momentum. That much I have seen quite a bit of.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that first, and I think it would be worse at home, especially the environment that's supposed to be on Saturday. But that first possession at the Pittsburgh game, or first couple possessions, like, you could tell the air was just like out of the building for the Tennessee fans there. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is miserable.
It was.
So I worry about that a lot given the build up to this game. So that's what you said, Evan. That's the biggest key, is having a good first possession. I think a big part, I'm fine with deferring, honestly. But
if we can set the tone early by a quick score, and this might be a good way to kind of transition more towards talking about the defense. But if we can get a stop, like on the first possession, it doesn't have to be a 3 and out, but if we can rattle them a little bit, Anthony Richardson, questionable start to the season. A lot of people say he has a lot of good potential. The Florida offense, in my opinion, is very one-dimensional, and it all runs through Anthony Richardson and his athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get beat by the deep ball, and we're not going to get beat by some fantastic running back or even a star receiver. Their leading receiver has 120 yards on the season.
Exactly. I mean, they
So
look terrible in that game against Kentucky. And I know Kentucky has a better defense.
They don't
but
have any
still.
dynamic receivers. All their receivers look the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking Tim Banks' scheme this week has got to be super dialed into whatever Anthony Richardson is doing. And I think that might involve less Jeremy Banks. As I love Jeremy Banks as a run focused inside linebacker.
Yep.
But on a spy or back in a zone coverage,
I agree.
sometimes can be a liability. So I like Roman Harrison a lot. Even your guy Salon Page, Caleb might be able to keep up with him a little bit better.
Is he still at Tennessee?
Oh yeah.
Maybe
we see more of a
10 years?
Maybe we see some more.
Yeah, he's been there at least 6.
That's Hunter Renfro times 2.
Yeah, really.
Maybe we see more of Elijah Herring.
Yeah, I've actually been impressed with Elijah Herring while he's been in. So, one thing I want to think about in the Pitt game, Tennessee Pitt,
Mm-hmm.
Tim Banks, Tennessee's defensive coordinator, basically said, you know what? Our linebackers cannot cover space at all.
Yeah.
They will never keep up with the running back, and they will never keep up with the wide receiver, and they will never keep up with the tight end. So, he said, I'm going to blitz one of them every play. And it worked. But it worked because Pittsburgh's first-string quarterback is not a mobile guy, and their second-string quarterback had a broken leg. You know what I mean? So,
they started running like a 1970s Pete Carroll offense in the second half, and knew that was coming and still couldn't stop it.
Yeah. Exactly. So, my question to you all is, if we're rushing 5 every play, which I think we will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is Anthony Richardson just going to burn us like we saw all last year, or what?
I'm afraid if that's the game plan, then it's going to look a lot like Matt Corral last year.
Yeah. Just being able to create plays in open space because, he's mobile enough, athletic enough to be able to get out of the pocket.
Unless
like these other guys are not.
Unless we can just collapse the pocket, then that's going to be the key. Getting pressure on him quickly. I don't know if you all have watched any of his games or tape or anything, but Anthony Richardson is easily rattled in the pocket, even without pressure in his face. If the pocket goes any certain way that's not exactly what he's expecting, he will kind of do something abnormal.
Yeah.
So
and that's definitely how the Kentucky game was. Is he definitely didn't feel comfortable back there. So
it may have to be mixing up some looks, and maybe instead of blitzing one of the linebackers, you bring a safety up. I mean, if we're gonna blitz, it's got to be something special because I don't like taking an extra guy behind Anthony Richardson and giving him all that space.
No.
I agree. So, one thing I want to do on this game is let's go over some matchups, right? So, let's say Hendon Hooker, Tennessee's wide receivers, tight ends, against Florida's secondary. Who do you give the edge to? Is it a big edge? Is it a slight edge? I'm going to go ahead and say a slight edge to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if Tillman's out, I can't give them a big edge.
Agreed.
And I think Florida's secondary is better than people think.
Yeah.
Slight edge to Tennessee for me. What do you all think?
I would say slight edge just based on, Tennessee's experience with Hooker. But like you said, with Tillman out, that's going to change a lot of matchups for sure. So I would give a slight edge, but not a big one. I think the comparison to the Ole Miss game last year is a good narrative for this because I think everyone's thinking it's like, oh, Tennessee's offense, high flying and everything. But you remember that game was much more low scoring than what people had expected with it. I think that's kind of what we might be in for. Hopefully not the same result, but I think with a mobile quarterback on the other side, that's kind of where we're leaning towards. Hooker's not able to make some plays downfield against a decent secondary.
So my thoughts on it kind of, and maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment here, but Tennessee and Hendon Hooker has always had a tendency to really pepper two guys. There's never been room much, I think, in Hendon Hooker's progression for three outstanding wide receivers in the same game.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just me and my optimism, but I think, and especially after last game, Hendon Hooker's connection with Jalen Hyatt is going to remain. I wouldn't be surprised if Hyatt has 15 plus targets. And then I also think, like, at Brew McCoy's best, he kind of reminds me of Jawan Jennings, just in his demeanor, the way that he plays, the way that he kind of runs routes and runs after the catch. So I really think it's going to come down to how well Brew plays, especially if this is assuming Tillman's out. If Brew McCoy can get involved and Hendon Hooker can find a way to get him involved, I think it's more than just a slight edge. But based on my experience with the University of Tennessee, it probably won't be. So
correct.
On paper, we should be much better than them, especially if you're there.
Yeah.
On paper.
Yeah. I agree. So let's go O-line.
Jalen Hyatt to me looks like Justin Jefferson-esque.
Yeah.
Like, that dude is awesome.
Yeah, he's fast.
I'm so excited to see him the next couple of years.
His straight line speed is pretty nuts. And it makes you
He
wonder,
runs good routes.
It makes you wonder why it's taking this long for it to really click.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go O-line running backs, Tennessee versus front seven of Florida. On paper, I feel like Tennessee should win this, but if history has any bearing over what we do against Florida, we cannot run the ball. So I'll give the edge to Florida for that. What do y'all think?
Yeah, that's my biggest concern. I think if we can't establish the run, it's going to be much harder for us. So I'm guessing that's going to be a dogfight on the line. Fingers crossed, not too many injuries yet up there. Our guys have been pretty stable, so they have a good opportunity. They're not foolproof, so I'm guessing Billy Napier is going to throw a pretty good defense out there.
Yeah.
So.
You agree, C-Phil?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I just think that, we have good pass rushers. Like, edge rush is not an issue. I think just getting any kind of pass rush up the middle is going to be what a challenge might be, And we mentioned that about the being able to catch running backs in open space. This is not a strong suit.
Yep.
Of front seven. I mean, that was the thing too in Pittsburgh. The play where the tight end hurdled the guy down the sideline, and then where their running back broke loose. Those plays literally looked like Tennessee's defense was running in slow motion. It was they gave those guys a 10 to 15 yard. They had a 10 to 15 yard advantage of them upfield, and the guys just walked right past them. Especially that running back. So, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that's where the edge is that Florida might have.
Yep.
If you're going to ask about quarterbacks, I personally would give the edge to Hendon Hooker. I think
I would too.
He's much more poised. He's
much better pass
experience. Very efficient as a passer. He may miss some throws, but he's going to take care of the football. He's going to put together some really good drives, and he's going to be very cool under pressure, which I think, he's seen quite a bit of. So here's a fun little nugget though. Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman are both in the top 10 for receiving yards in the nation right now.
That's big time.
I think Jalen Hyatt might be in the top 5.
Yeah, Jalen Hyatt's been beaten up on the little boys we played, and Tillman showed out against Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
He got 17 targets, though.
That's true.
Yeah. So I guess last thing for this game, who are you picking, and are you picking Tennessee to cover the spread or not? I'll go first. Tennessee to win. Tennessee to win big. If it doesn't happen now, it's never gonna happen. I got Tennessee winning by at least 10.
Okay. I'm going 31-24 Tennessee. I think it's going to be it's going to be feel a little bit bigger lead than that. I think Florida maybe gets like a late touchdown, late field goal, has a chance to come back and tie if defense shuts it down. But I don't see Tennessee getting behind early, like at least I'm hoping. Anyways, and I think they'll kind of play ahead the whole game, but it'll be a little bit back and forth there in the second half.
Yeah.
So I'm liking a little bit lower scoring too, 31-24. That's what I'm going with.
I'll take Tennessee to win. Just the nature of the game, I do expect it to be close. If at the very least in the final box score, whether it feels close or not, I'll just go ahead and say 38-31. Probably. Generally, Tennessee's won games like this in the Hypo area by a touchdown. So I think that would be pretty on par if that happens again. I do
it's similar to like year's Kentucky game,
Yeah.
That was high score.
What a game that was.
And so I do expect to win though, and my hopes and dreams are depending on it.
Yep, absolutely. If we win, we're still alive. If not, we are dead.
Okay.
Last thing on this game. What was I about to say? I was about to say something crazy.
Profound.
Okay, I remember. If we get up 10-0, 14-0 first quarter, do you see a runaway?
Yes.
I do too. If we're up by double digits first quarter, I think we just stomp them.
That's a fair point.
I think if that's
the crowd would be insane.
Yeah.
If we're having that much success already, especially on defense, if we can, if they have 0 points at the end of the first quarter, that's, in my opinion, best case scenario, because that's been the missing piece for us for years. So that'll be a teller. If we're tied after the first quarter, or if we're losing, it'll be a dogfight.
Yeah, it's a ball game.